All right, let's jump right in. If you're a marketing practitioner, get ready, because we're about to explore a book that basically flips the table on some of the industry's most deeply held beliefs. It's all about replacing guesswork with science to see how brands actually grow.
So the book kicks off with this killer analogy. Think about it. For hundreds of years, the smartest doctors in the world thought the best way to cure someone was, well, bloodletting. A cure based on theories that were never tested and, was often useless, sometimes even deadly. The argument here is that a lot of what we do in marketing today is kind of the same thing. We're working off myths and gut feelings instead of hard evidence.
And that's really the core issue here. Look, marketing is creative, no doubt about it. But so is architecture, right? And an architect can't just decide to ignore the law of gravity because they've got some wild new design. It doesn't work that way. And the point is, marketing shouldn't either. It has to play by certain rules, scientific laws about how people really buy things, not just what we think works.
Okay, so let's get into it. First up, we're taking on one of the biggest sacred cows in all of marketing. This idea that growth is all about focusing on your loyal existing customers.
You've probably heard this one before. It's a famous line from the Harvard Business Review that pretty much became gospel. The idea that if you just retain a few more customers, your profits will skyrocket. It makes retention sound like the golden ticket, right? But here's the catch. When you dig into it, you find out it was just a thought experiment, a math problem. It wasn't based on real-world data, and it conveniently assumed that getting those customers to stay would cost you, well, nothing, which, of course, is never the case.
So, what does the actual data say? Let's take a look at what happens when we study how people really shop over decades.
Okay, so check this out, because this is where it gets really interesting. You see a clear pattern here. Take Purcell, the big player. It has a huge market penetration. 41% of people in this category bought it. Now, look way down at a smaller brand, Surf, with only 17%. Huge difference in the number of buyers, right? But now look at the purchase frequency. Purcell's buyers bought it about 3.9 times a year. Surf's buyers, 3.4 times. It's barely different. So as market share drops, the number of buyers completely tanks, but their loyalty, it hardly moves at all.
And this isn't a one-off thing. This is what's known as the double jeopardy law. It's not an opinion. It's a pattern that shows up over and over again, whether you're selling cars or coffee. Smaller brands get a double whammy. They have way fewer buyers, and those buyers are just slightly less loyal. It's as predictable as a law of physics. So what's the big takeaway here? It's simple, but it changes everything. Brands grow by getting more buyers, not by trying to make their existing buyers hyper-loyal. Growth is all about acquisition, about reaching more people, especially those who only buy from you occasionally. All right, so if growth isn't about squeezing more loyalty out of your current customers, what about that other core pillar of marketing, differentiation? This brings us to the next big myth, the idea that you absolutely have to have a unique selling proposition to win. I mean, we all learned this in Marketing 101, right? Differentiation is king. You've got to find your USP, that one thing that makes you special, that gives people a compelling reason to pick you from the crowd.
Sounds good in theory, but what does the data say? What happens when you actually ask a brand's own customers, hey, is this brand really all that different?
The answer is pretty shocking. The research, and this is across thousands of brands, shows that a whopping 82% of a brand's own customers don't see it as different from the competition. Let that sink in. The people actually spending money on your product, most of them don't think it's all that unique.
And this is where we see a huge shift in thinking. The goal isn't to be different, it's to be distinctive. What's the difference? It's not about persuading people you're better or have some unique feature. It's about being easy to recognize. Think about the golden arches for McDonald's or the Nike swoosh. That swoosh doesn't say our shoes are better, it just says this is Nike. It's a mental shortcut that makes the brand pop into your head.
So, the real fight isn't for some unique spot in a customer's brain. It's just to get in their brain in the first place. Honestly, your biggest competitor isn't Coke if you're Pepsi. It's complete and utter indifference.
Okay, so we've torn down the old ideas of loyalty and differentiation. So what do we build in their place? What's the real, evidence-based way that brands actually grow?
It all comes down to building two things. Just two. That's the whole game right there. All of brand growth, all of competition. It's really about just two things: mental availability and physical availability.
So what's mental availability? It's basically being easy to think of. It's about building these memory connections in people's minds using your distinctive assets, your colors, your logo, that jingle they can't get out of their head. You use them over and over so that when someone's in a buying situation, your brand is one of the first to pop into their head.
And physical availability, well, that's being easy to find. It's about being on the shelf, being online, being wherever the customer is. You want to make it as easy and frictionless as possible to buy your product. The classic example is Coca-Cola's goal to be within an arm's length of desire. That's physical availability in a nutshell.
Okay, so what does this all mean for you, doing the work day in and day out? Let's boil all of this down into a super simple, actionable playbook.
Here are the new rules of the road. First, reach everyone in your category, not just some tiny niche target. Second, make your brand dead simple to buy. Third, get noticed. And once you're noticed, be memorable. Refresh those memory structures and use your distinctive assets, your logos, your colors, again and again, so you're not starting from scratch with every single campaign.
And why does this matter so much? Because this gives you a serious edge. While your competitors are off chasing ghosts, trying to create hyper-loyal fans, or find that one unique thing to say, you can be laser-focused on the only two things that are scientifically proven to grow your brand.
So, it all comes back to that first question. It's something every single one of us in this field needs to ask. Are you building your marketing plans on science, or are you still practicing a bit of that medieval superstition?